You think I ain't ran this business for almost a decade now?
Jey did it! Jey has beat Roman Reigns!
You can't beat me, Jey.
Jey has been waiting for this moment, quite possibly his entire life.
At SummerSlam 2023, we were supposed to witness a historic match that was 3 years in the making. Anyone who had been following this dynamic all the way since 2020 knew how much of a big deal this was. Jey Uso finally facing off Roman Reigns, the man who had been bullying and controlling him from the past 3 years. So it was such a big shock to witness how bad everything turned out to be.
From day one, you and your brother, and you do him like this?
I guess WWE was quite surprised that the whole ordeal wasn't as impactful as Jey's triumph over Roman or Sami's change of heart at Royal Rumble. The events of SummerSlam and Jimmy's questionable alliance with Solo has raised questions about whether the Bloodline storyline might be overstaying its welcome and why this once great storyline is starting to lose its luster. Of course, this wasn't the case since the very beginning. In fact, the creative writers were often praised for handling each and every aspect of this ongoing saga masterfully.
Jey did it! Jey did it! Jey has beat Roman Reigns!
In the beginning, WWE struck a gold by pitting Jey against Roman Reigns as his very first challenger. After suffering defeat and humiliation by Roman, Jey had no choice but to pledge his allegiance to the tribal chief. This unique dynamic had fans on the edge of their seats, eagerly anticipating how long will it take for Jey to reach his breaking point. The storyline hit its peak when Sami Zayn was added to the equation, but he still had to prove his loyalty. Anyone who has been following this very closely knew that Jey never trusted Sami for a long time, often viewing him as an outsider.
Oh, not gonna need it, you know what I mean?
Look, I do.
However, by the time Jey warmed up to Sami was just done with Roman and he was mentally exhausted by all the belittling and bugging by him. After 2.5 years, Jey finally stood up to Roman and distanced himself. Even though Jey had his problem with Roman, his loyalty to his twin brother Jimmy was unwavering, and this complex loyalty added depth to his persona. His decision to attack Sami was driven by his inability to turn his back on Jimmy regardless of the circumstances. After the events of WrestleMania 39, Roman's true nature became apparent to the Usos as they realized that Roman just couldn't accept the fact that they lost their tag titles at the grandest stage of them all. After no longer being able to bear Roman's constant bullying, Jimmy just couldn't handle it anymore, which speaks volume that it was Jimmy who first broke the fourth wall. After breaking ties with Roman, this left fans wondering what Jey would do next. Would he stick with his brother and try to reconcile with Roman to maintain a face persona? He ultimately chose to stay with his brother.
Oh my God!
In the UK, the Usos' undeniable loyalty proved instrumental in taking down Roman Reigns. After having the upper hand over Roman, the long-awaited clash between Jey and Roman was set for the biggest party of the summer. However, something felt off about this whole ordeal, particularly Jimmy's shocking betrayal of his brother. Even if I took a second to comprehend Jimmy's concern, I'll never understand why run back to the same family and brother that you turned your back in the first place. Roman's extended absence has also raised concerns. Regardless of one's feeling towards him, Roman's presence made the storyline feel more significant.
Enough! Solo!
He has truly elevated up to a position where fans constantly crave his presence, and maybe his absence has irretrievably broken this storyline. In the end, Jey made the right choice to distance himself for his own mental peace and managed to regain the tag titles by having Cody Rhodes by his side. The Bloodline has been missing an endpoint, a satisfying conclusion to this ongoing narrative. Currently, it's a story without an ending, and even dedicated fans on social media are growing tired of this lack of closure.
Wait a minute! It is Jey Uso.
They had many opportunities to conclude the storyline but still continued without a clear direction. Despite the Bloodline hailed as one of the greatest pro wrestling storylines of all time in my books, it's time for WWE to decide an endpoint and look forward to the future. The company needs to consider who will ultimately conclude the storyline and start planning for what comes next. A never-ending story with no clear direction or resolution does not make for a compelling storyline. Stories must advance, evolve, and reach a satisfying conclusion to engage and retain the audience interest. The Bloodline has been a noteworthy storyline with moments of excitement, but it's essential for WWE to provide closure and clarity to make it truly great.